My first guest is Mr. Dare Odufowokon. He's the SSA on Public Communications to the Ogun State Governor. Thank you, Dare. He's a very much a friend of the House. Yeah. And so here we are. Now, on the theme of sacrifice, the President was saying that, our sacrifices will not be in vain. And one can think of a lot of sacrifices that Nigerians are making now. So, we are still in the middle of, we're in the throes of the NLC strike and waiting to hear from the President. In the meantime, they've said what they've said. Let's look at the sacrifices, because Mr. President has continued to emphasize that I hear you, I feel your pain, but for now it's necessary. It's a difficult task, isn't it? It's a difficult task selling this sacrifice because a lot of people feel that. In fact, there are those who are going to say that na sacrifice I go chop. How would you react to that?
Well, it won't be too good if we look at it from that angle about na sacrifice I go chop, because sincerely, this period, the Salah Festival coming at a period like this is to remind all of us of the fact that we can take Nigeria to where it ought to be together, but it requires sacrifices, a lot of it.
Indeed.
A lot of it, because while the people understandably expect the leaders to make a lot of sacrifices, the leaders too, they are sitting in the saddle. They understand what needs to be done. And that's why they are also saying, look, while we will do that which we expect of us, there are needs for you too to be sacrificial. Like my principal, Governor Dapabiodun, in his own message, also stressed the need for selflessness.
Which is a form of sacrifice.
And even sacrifice on its own. Apart from, we need to think less at this point. If we must get Nigeria and our various states and our various communities out of the wood.
But that is not to say one is downplaying the difficulties that most Nigerians find themselves in. It's just that we have to be real, as it were. We have to say it as it is, because and it's, quite frankly, it's a tough job. Because, okay, take for instance the sacrifice that we have made. Sometimes when sacrifices are made, look at the sacrifice, if you want to call it that, of the first day of President Tinubu's day in office. He took out the subsidy, the fuel subsidy. Then he collapsed the exchange rates into one. Now, all of these had, it had a punch, something of a sucker punch on all of us. We're talking about inflation being where it is. There are those who are saying that those things were the cause. But actually, we were made to understand that Nigeria was in a very, very critical condition.
Before the coming of this administration.
Before the coming of this. Bayo Onanuga was saying in a different context yesterday that this administration inherited a zero. There was nothing that was inherited. So it's not as if this administration caused the problems that we have.
Rather, this administration is trying to take us away from the brink.
And will take us out of the operating pressure.
If you look at it, perhaps we got to that point where things were so bad before the coming of this administration because sacrifices were not made in the past.
This is the whole...
Because we were not, as a people, government, leaders, followers, because all of us were not selfless enough in the past. And now we have leaders who said, look, together, let us make sacrifices. Together, let us save this nation from near collapse. Because from what experts, even experts outside government, are telling us now, it could have been worse if those drastic measures
had not been taken.
For example, talking about subsidy. The people, while subsidy was being paid, we the people were not benefiting. The only benefit we had was buying fuel at that subsidized rate. But our collective patrimony was being filtered away into the pockets of a few. So now the presidency, the leadership is saying, look, let's move away from that era of little gain, plenty losses. Let us find how we can benefit more from what is ours together. And that's the road we are on now. And from state to state, each administration is expected to localize this strategy in a way that the people, while making sacrifices, will also see hope. They will see
part of it.
the good use of monies being saved. That's why, if you make Ogun State an example, the infrastructural drive we are carrying on now is made possible by such sacrifices on the part of the people and government. The ability to bring in more people into the workforce, employ as much as 4,000 teachers in one single act, is made possible by such sacrifices. The ability of this current administration in Ogun State under Prince Dapo Abiodun to start an airport project and conclude such, get it ready for operation within 4 years, 5 years, are outcomes of such sacrifices. And that is offering hope. It is only when this is not being done that we could have the fear that the sacrifices of the people will be in vain. But because this is being done at that level, and because the presidency too is ensuring that the gains of these sacrifices are in turn used to make life better for the people.
That is the most important.
That is what the people want to see.
Because that's all the people want.
That is what the people want to see.
Because, look, we're talking about sacrifices because it is facing us. It is really in our face. Yeah. Because all these sacrifices, part of it, no doubt, is the fact that our spending power has gone where it has gone. Yeah. You know, food inflation, whatever, headline inflation, all of that. It has to be seen in terms of a sacrifice, because the president has always been saying that, look, it's tough, and I know it's tough.
I feel your pain too.
Yes, he knows it's tough, but the big trick is how to now get people on side to see that, look, in your pain. I guess that's where perhaps the government itself is going to have to, in addition to all that you've said, do something to show the people that we are sacrificing. Because people have called into programs like this before and said, is it only us at the base of the pyramid that must sacrifice? Meaning or suggesting that at the very peak, at the very peak of the pyramid, not very much is seen by way of sacrifice because of how, how
the people perceive
we are,
the government are still living.
We are it does look a bit anything but sacrificial. It does look a bit opulent. Now, okay, you disagree.
See, as somebody who is in government, you see, I can only speak for the administration and part of
your example.
And I tell you, I don't see
frivolity.
In fact, His Excellency Prince Dapo Abiodun is one man who wants to put every penny that belongs to the people to good use for the people. And his administration is not a gargantuan one. It's not one that is big. You can cross-check that.
Okay.
He has not gone on an appointment spree, appointing this, appointing that, because he realized that we need to cut costs. Aside that, there's so many things that ordinarily you take for granted that, yes, people in government will be enjoying this, that the governor will tell you, look, this is for us. We can do this later.
Okay.
Let's look at how we can put these resources. And that's why in Ogun State, every day we talk about improved IGR, improved spending on part of government, yet you've not had any case of multiple taxing. You can hear it, because what he has been able to do is put government money to good use. Yes, IGR. Let's have more where we have overlooked before, things we were not doing before. Let's invest, then we'll get more internet-generated revenue. But he's not double taxing. Neither is he multi-taxing everybody, because government spending has become very, very reasonable. Very, very reasonable. If it is not in the greater interest for a larger number of people, it is secondary to him.
Okay.
Everything that is not going to improve the life of the people is secondary.
You know,
and that is the expectation of the people. As we make sacrifices as citizens, our leaders too should make sacrifices.
Okay.
And that's what we are doing in the government, in the administration of Ogun State.
Okay, let's hear it from Otumba Debo, who is in Abeokuta. Good morning, Otumba.
Good morning, Uncle Yori.
Thank you for calling in, sir.
Good morning to the...
Good morning, sir.
The President Tinubu something of sacrificing. Yeah? President Tinubu sacrificing.
Okay. No, President Tinubu says our sacrifices will not be in vain. He has the roadmap. He can see the roadmap. A lot of people can see it, but it's like anybody who is fasting. It's not necessarily the most enjoyable time, but if it is for a purpose, and I think that's the impression, that is what the president is putting across, that all of this has a purpose. It will not be in vain. That's the theme that the president wants us to grapple with and trust him with. Yes, sir.
His own government is not making that sacrifice. If you lead by example, he's talking of buying new jets for himself and the vice president, 160 million each for National Assembly members, 21 billion naira bidding for VP, 7 trillion naira for Lagos Calabar road, and it's not of convoys. For even the governorship, the state appointee there, you can see the governor is going with more than 30, 40 vehicles in the convoy. Is that sacrifice? Certainly not. The sacrifices must begin from the government, first and foremost.
Oh.
The budgets are in place. They should ameliorate it. Please.
Thank you very much for calling in, Otumba Debo. It goes back to what we were talking about earlier, where people take certain perceptions because it seems to them that the rich never cry.
Let me respond to one or two things you said. You see, while people are entitled to their perception, to their opinion, they must get their perceptions right. He didn't get it right. Let me start from what he said about 30, 40 vehicles in the convoy over my governor. It's a blatant lie. I am always in the convoy. And I can tell you that at no time will you find more than, you can't find up to a dozen, including security operatives. So when somebody now says 30, 40, you begin to wonder where was he standing and he saw that. So we don't misinform the public. So I'm putting it to him that that's outright misinformation. Having said that, let's even look at the issue of, you mentioned the issue of the presidency buying new jets. Well, I cannot hold brief for them. I'm sure Otumba Debo would not want a situation like the one we had in Malawi, where the private jet of the vice president malfunctioned and disappeared. And then what? The result was 9 people, 9 important government officials.
Yeah.
Then we will wonder why we talk about sacrifices.
Yes.
On the part of government. The things needed to ensure that government function properly too.
Yes.
Especially when it comes to safety.
They must be in place.
They must be in place.
Those will not be compromised.
They should not be compromised.
And cannot be compromised.
And when we now use those as examples of frivolities, we are not being fair.
Well,
That's
okay.
That's the truth.
I hear you. But surely, Dari, you also will see it from the point of view, from the perception. I use the word, that's why I enunciated the word. Okay? The perception of the ordinary man. Even as you said, because the next thing you could ask me is that, so what do you want us to do? No. He said the thing is not more than maybe a dozen vehicles. The perception seems to have been taken by the ordinary person, from what you are saying wrongly, that they are not tightening their belt. This is not about your governor. It's a general thing. It's about the National Assembly members too.
That's a different ballgame.
But it is the same Nigeria, and this sacrifice that the president is talking about.
Down to the issue of
it's about why. I think it was Otumba Debo who said that. Why are they not leading us in this example? Remember, I'm not saying we should go there, but I just recall that it was a military regime, but I think it was in the Obasanjo military regime. I think the president wasn't entitled to anything more than, was it a 505 or something like that? Remember that era of 504 cars? Because there was, you see, I don't know that we can go back there. But since this has become a game of perception, the ordinary Mukaila, the ordinary Chinedu in the market, he just sees what he sees. Now, that I think is where all of this is coming from.
You see, let's look at it this way. What Chinedu sees.
Balogun is on the line from Berger. Let me take Balogun and then we'll come back in. Good morning to you, Mr. Balogun.
Good morning, sir. Uncle Yori.
Good morning, sir. Thank you for calling in.
Yes, sir. Baraka Tisala and happy holiday.
I wish you the same. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Yes, good morning to Billy, the special...
Dari Odufowokan. I should say honorable self.
Sorry, I think a few days ago, I could not remember the very day, on this TVC that, you have been asked about what, you talked about many things our Ogun State governor, Amikim governor is doing, and you lay emphasis on a lot of things, the roads you have been doing to Iperu, about the airport or whatever, most of all these things to Iperu, Ijebu, and sorry, this Alagbole, Akute, Ajuwon, Lambe, going to Otaifo Road.
Even Benro, he's mentioning Benro.
Denro. Yeah, you mentioned Benro, but I'm talking of the bridge, the almost 4 to 5 bridge that Governor Amoso left behind. Then, my brother, this road is getting more worse. People cannot go to Lambe again. This between Alagbole to Ajuwon, sir, just bring your vehicle and run it to and fro. The next thing is you go and visit the mechanic just once. This Alagbole to this road is a one lane. People are running one way now for almost 1 to 2 years. Then we'll talk of Akute to the other land there, going to the link of Ishaka or Ifo. I don't know. The bridge, this is everything, all those iron are getting rusted. Everything is breaking down. When our Mr. Governor is coming to our rescue on this road, that is one. Then two, the Yakoyo Alagbole bridge that is functioning. It is not, once rain fall now, you will see the old bridge full of water. And all these things will be affecting the bridge gradually before, we know it, not to go and, collapse.
All right. Well, I want to thank you, sir. I want to thank you very much, Mr. Balogun. You've made the point, but unfortunately, as often happens, perhaps Mr. Balogun also is aware of some infrastructure facilities that are spick and span, but those haven't come up. You are used to that. People will complain about, what still needs to be done, and take for granted
what has been done.
What has already been done. It's
natural, but let me. He started by trying to make an inference that it seems as if the whole facilities are in Ekperu Remo. That's also one of the perceptions that I plead against. You see, currently, work is almost done on the Aton Lusada Road. It's not in Remo, it's not in Ogun East. If you go to Lafenwa the axis now, in Ogun Central, work is ongoing. I can go on and on about the Mowe of Father Road. It's also not in the axis. It's near where he is talking about. So, and then there is Adodo Ikongba Road. Then Akute Denro Isashi that is mentioned, he spoke about some bridges started by the former administration. You see, government is about prioritizing what you think is good for the people at a particular point in time. I can tell him that there is an ongoing construction of road. The work have started in Akute, on the Akute Denro Road. That the bridge has not been attended to cannot and should not mean that that axis has been abandoned. The government probably will have looked at, okay, we can have alternative roads. What is going on here needs bigger attention. It was started by previous administration.
You know that we're talking about this at all in the context of sacrifice.
Yeah, exactly.
It's because we're looking for whatever infrastructural facilities can be put in place or enhanced that would now benefit the ordinary man.
People. Exactly.
The ordinary people.
Okay.
So that Madam Mr. Balogun spoke about the wear and tear, toil on vehicles,
the bridges,
and spending too long on the
constructions.
On
That's why I'm saying Akute Denro Isashi Road, Songo Agbado Lambe Road. Construction was ongoing there. It's in the axis he's talking about, and it is meant for the people. That this administration shows not to do exactly the same thing that the previous administration did. It should not be interpreted that abandoning that axis. Okay. So work is ongoing to make life easy in that axis.
Okay, because
if government feels that, look, this will take longer time to continue with this, why don't you provide an alternative that will serve the people right? I think what they should wait for is the end result.
Because it's all about,
ensuring that their palliatives are not in vain.
Yes, yes. Okay, good morning, Reverend Dominic.
Good morning, Yuri.
Thank you.
Good morning to your guests.
Indeed.
Good morning, sir.
Now, Yuri, politics over. This is the time to speak gospel truth. The problem of Nigeria today is not about this government. It's what we have been crying since 10 years ago. And it's what we didn't do well yesterday or what we did well yesterday. Yuri, do you know today there are about 3 million people living in ID camp in the north? Whether you like it or not, those 3 million people could have feed themselves. They don't want to use SUV or fly on the private jet. They could have gone to farm and feed themselves. Now, Nigeria is feeding 3 million people doing nothing in ID camp. How do you think there will be no food scarcity? That's number one. I want to join this with what I read yesterday about the New York Times, trying to blame this government about bad economy and the hunger. So that one is out of moods. And I don't want to support people who support that New York Times. There's no man on earth that will love you more than you love yourself. This New York Times and their company will push you to remove subsidies, push you to devalue your naira. Now, when the consequence of it come, they begin to blame you. They begin to set up the people against the government. All I'm trying to say, Yuri, Nigerians will fix Nigerians by themselves. We must find a way to stop this insecurity so we can go to farm and at least get what we can eat before even the micro and macroeconomics of the whole Nigeria. This insecurity must stop so that people will go back to farm. People will go and fend for themselves. There's no way a nation will feed 3 million people in ID camps and the economy remains the same. Not to say that government is doing the best. When a man is coming to power, is coming for solutions.
Yeah.
We know Nigeria is bad.
Yeah.
By 2027, we will see people who want to govern Nigeria. They will tell us that they know how bad it is. It is when they get to power, they begin to say how terrible it is. Governance is about change. Governance is about making the world situation better, not making bad situation worse. I want to talk to the XA in your studio. With due respect, if you bring every government official to TVC, you will think that they're not talking about Nigeria of today we live. You think they're talking about Nigeria that is in the moon. I don't want to listen to government officials. Things have gone bad. We must put ourselves together to do it. Sacrifice. As we make sacrifice, let government officials also make sacrifice. 12 cars in one convoy is too many. 1 dozen cars in one convoy is too many. What is government using 12 cars to do? Security himself and journalists.
I hear you, Reverend Dominic.
When the man is supporting 12...
Thank you very much, Reverend Dominic. Let's give Mr. Dufour a chance to respond. to this.
I will only respond to, when I was saying, I said not up to, it doesn't count.
Okay, okay.
And then, but
it goes to show you the agony of the people.
It goes to show, largely, in my opinion, the lack of understanding. If you say a governor should move and he should just drive himself and probably have one vehicle and he says go one vehicle for him, security and the media. It goes beyond that. I mean, most of these vehicles you see in those convoys are actually belong to the various security organizations that are attached to the official. So we talking about sacrifices.
Yes.
While we'll expect sacrifice from the part of the leaders, we should also be ready to make sacrifice and be selfless about it.
The people
be
feel
selfless about it and be willing to see the end results.
In fact, the people, I don't need to tell you, I mean, you're a journalist yourself. The people feel that we are the people making sacrifices.
And that's why I'm telling you that those in government too are making sacrifices.
They are,
a lot of it.
But perhaps they want a bit more visibility to the sacrifices. I wouldn't even call it a ridiculous extreme, but I went to the extreme where at one time in this country, where was that? Dodam Barracks, the Supreme Clinical Council, there was just these green Peugeots that were, because a car gets you from A to B. It's not about luxury. You want luxury. Why are you buying?
Peugeot in those days was the in thing. You see, we cannot continue to talk about Peugeot in 2024. Peugeot in those days, what vehicles were better then that were in circulation?
Okay.
Those were the in thing. So let's see, it's about what will work.
We're talking about appearances.
Appearances of the vehicles?
Perception as opposed to fact.
That's exactly perception as opposed to fact. Thank you. But we should work with facts, especially we in the media.
Indeed.
Why do people go with perception? We should help diffuse that and present the facts, not help them elevate perception above facts.
Right. Well, I hear you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for coming on. It's always going to be like this, and I imagine if the president expects it, your governor and your very good self will also expect.
Because that's why we don't take offense when people express their opinion.
Their frustration
rather,
sometimes
they try to this is how it is. And this is what we are doing.